I believe it is our high interest to examine the Spartan history and create a discourse on whether the Spartan state was ideal for all of us men and women. I have chosen Sparta merely for their astonishing success on the battlefield, but I also took some time to study the nature of their culture and their social norms, for they have mastered practically all aspects of life, starting with the physical and ending with the spiritual realm, including the mental and the emotional. Many will give credit to Lycurgus, the first Spartan lawgiver, and rightfully so, for he laid the foundations upon the Spartan population, and the descendants have sculptured and enhanced those virtues and philosophical principles dictated by him. Unlike many other nations who maintain a written form of constitution, Sparta had an oral tradition, as Lycurgus believed it was much more effective and efficient to pass down the laws and traditions orally in the families from generation to generation, since each man ought to have the constitution carried in his heart and not just on a piece of paper. It taught each man to adhere to the Spartan norms as well as learning the laws from an early age. Most nations in the modern world do not follow this kind of method and instead abandon the familial traditions. When a child was born, male or female, the Spartan doctors would interrogate the child for any forms of disabilities. If the boy was disabled or retarded, he would be thrown away down the cliff, though many historians are pretty uncertain whether this actually happened. Some say they threw the babies off the cliff, some suggest that they were automatically disqualified from the agoge and sent down to the perioeci, who were neither slaves nor Spartans. The male baby was examined to see if he was fit to serve the Spartan nation, and the female baby for bearing children and taking care of the household. This was done in eugenic terms by dipping the baby in wine to see the reactions of the skin. After passing the tests and other examinations, the baby was handed over to his or her mother for the next 7 years before the boy would be taken away and sent to the agoge. The agoge is an educational program for all male Spartans who underwent one of the toughest military programs at the time of period ever known. In the first few years, music, poetry, sports, and mathematics would be taught unto the children, and over time the intensity would gradually increase, especially the physical trainings for which Sparta is known for. Repeatedly, they had to prove their excellency and skills, demonstrate their willingness to go through any hurdle or obstacle, and strive to become a complete Spartan citizen, since nobody was born a true Spartan citizen. Once those boys became men at around 20 years of age, at the time of their completion of the agoge program, they continued to serve in the military but under less stricter conditions. The girls did not undergo military training but also received formal education in music, poetry, and other subjects, including physical training, as Lycurgus believed that only strong women could give birth to the healthiest future men in this nation. After all, strong women are the backbone of society, for which nowadays is unfortunately not the case anymore, or to a degree. Unlike other Greek states such as Athens, Thebes, or Arcadia, Spartan women were free to exercise many rights, including the right to own property. It was believed that at some point, 1/3 of Sparta was owned by women. Just like men, women competed in all forms of physical competitions and competed for the best men in order to marry them. Marriage was something sacred, like in practically any other society and culture. According to the Spartan tradition, the bride had to shave her head on the night of the wedding. The idea was to remove all luxury and wealth of every kind, and that applied to the monetary system, as Lycurgus strived to cut off foreign trade and affairs, but also wanted to create less greed for gold and silver among Spartans. He did not want the Spartans to worship money, and instead wanted men and women to focus on self-government, discipline, strength, nobility, honoring the country, and defending Sparta. Something what modern countries most certainly do not want. That. Instead of gold, they used copper and other metals of no use. Sparta became and remained one of the most powerful Greek states for a long time, aside from their long-time rival Athens, who they eventually defeated. After studying the Spartan history, it is evident that Lycurgus practically had it all figured out, starting with the diet and ending with the physical training and the political structure. Modern society could not last a minute what the Spartans 2,500 years ago had undergone. The central question of this content is whether we can revive a Spartan spirit in modern times, which is to have a militaristic government, a diarchy, and most importantly, if we can harden ourselves again in the Spartan manner. Mankind in modern days cannot even control what he eats, let alone does not follow a proper workout routine. What makes us think we can revive the Spartan mentality? Perhaps we must ask ourselves whether modern society even desires such a tough and spirited society rather than the other way around. I allow myself to go further than that by saying that many principles, philosophies, and wisdom has been lost, a special thanks to the industrialization and modern technology. For as Carl Gustav Jung, a former psychologist, claimed in Man and His Symbols that this has only dehumanized us, and we have thus lost our connection to our primitive instincts. What our ancestors have discovered and found out no longer plays a key role to our current lives, for modern society seeks power and control over its people and care less for the individual growth and development. Carl Jung also pointed out that the individual process must be emphasized to a high degree, for all power lies in the unconscious that must be faced eventually. Perhaps a Spartan-like society may no longer be possible, but the individual may live a Spartan life, pursuing his calling, dreams, and shaping his life to the maximum level, only under one condition: discipline. Discipline means freedom. If man has no discipline, he does not and cannot sustain a beautiful life, for everything must be paid for in his life, sometimes with his own, for the sake of the future generations. Perhaps we can attribute that to a lack of religion in modern society. For as you might recall, Nietzsche, when he declared God is dead, that's when society really went down the hill. And I do believe that it is essential nowadays to bring back religion to a certain degree, for without religion you have cannibalism. And once you don't have God in society, it doesn't matter, you have to create one. Because as Voltaire also said, that if there is no God, we need to create one. For God serves a form of moral basis for all of us humans. I am more than happy to open a discussion session with you regarding this topic and look forward to your views and arguments. Let it be fully critical. I love critical arguments.